Well, if looks could kill, this thing would be an absolute weapon. Just look at it. It is simply gorgeous, dramatic even. And that is something you could say about a Lexus since, well, never.
The LC500 is Lexus's first grand touring sports car, if you discount the sloppy SC430 convertible and consider the LFA a genuine supercar. It literally brings the stunning LF-LC concept to life, with very few changes from show machine to production. We've previously had the chance to push the LC500 to its limit, and it was mighty impressive. It's not quite a track car, and it's not quite a supercar, but it certainly is entertaining. Priced from $190,000 plus on-road costs, it is designed to go up against the likes of the Porsche 911 and Maserati Gran Turismo as an emotion-filled 2+2 seater coupe. And from the driver's seat, it is just as dramatic. There's plenty of theatre in this cabin. It is beautifully built with great tactile touches and quite a lot of spatial feeling to it. It's not that big, but you kind of feel like you're in a bigger car. The materials used, well, they are absolutely sumptuous. Not quite that level of handmade, handcrafted grand touring stuff that you'd get in a Bentley or an Aston Martin, for example, but it is genuinely right up there with the best. In terms of the level of build quality, well, it's kind of second to none. Some of the gaps in these fine buttons separated by mere millimeters and consistent across all of the buttons that suggest that this car has been built by some of the best in the business. There are some fiddly bits in terms of how to use the infotainment system. It's got this touchpad on there rather than a rotary controller in other vehicles, and you have to sort of navigate through a lot of the menus to get to even simple functions. But other than that, it's comfortable, it's quiet. Well, there's not a lot of space in those two rear seats, but show me a Grand Tourer that looks like this that can fit 4 people in there legitimately. Under the bonnet, the LC500 is powered by a naturally aspirated 5-litre V8 that produces 351 kilowatts of power and 540 newton meters of torque, and drives the rear wheels with a claimed average consumption of 11.6 litres per 100 k's. As for how it drives, well, the highlight of this car is the fact that it still has a naturally aspirated 5-litre V8, and it sounds gloriously divine, just burbling away at any rev, at any speed. When you wind it up to 7,000 RPM, my God, it just reminds you how good naturally aspirated engines are. But that configuration is also its drawback, because it doesn't have a lot of low-down pulling power, and it doesn't quite give you that whack in the back of your head that modern turbocharged sports cars have. However, it is linked to a 10-speed automatic gearbox that ensures that it's always in the sweet spot, whether you're cruising or up it for the rent. The steering is beautiful. It's got this lightness to it, but immediacy in terms of its feedback. And I'd have to say it feels absolutely precise, no matter if you're steering around town or in the bendy bits out on a backcountry blast. As for how it handles those corners, well, it is a big, heavy car, and it can't quite hide its mass when you really push it to its limits, but it is tuned a little bit more for comfort than it is for outright corner carving, and in that regard, it is legitimately a pretty comfortable car to drive around and cruise around town in. And that's where it really finds its position in the world. It's a great Grand Tourer rather than a brilliant sports car like the Porsche 911.
Okay, so the Lexus LC500 is not quite the killer sports car its looks promise it to be, but there is no denying that this thing is a definite head turner, and it is absolutely gorgeous and beautifully built inside. But it is a great Grand Tourer, a comfortable, cruisy sports car rather than one that whacks you in the back of the head. And convincingly, it's the best Lexus I've driven in generations.